Hello. So it's been a while. Paralives came out, and we're gonna find out today if I can break Paralives. I took a long break from The Sims. I got burned out. I'll be honest. I didn't want to do it anymore. But Paralives came out, so as I did with Inzoy when that came out, I'm kind of gonna do a little bit of a build comparison here, and kind of learn as I go through while I did this the various tools and things that are in this game. Obviously, it's early access. It's not all available yet. When I originally did an Inzoy and The Sims 4 build comparison, I tried to be really unbiased and keep it all really fair, and I still got called called out for not being fair by both sides of the aisle. So in this one, I don't care. I don't care now. So I'm gonna throw everything at Paralives in this. I'm going to try and recreate a build that I did in The Sims 4 that I originally called my mental health build. And this build, literally, like, I use all of the expansions, all of the cheats, and then about 90% of the decor and objects used in that is all modded. So Paralives is really going to be tested here. And I just wanted to see what it could do before it breaks, because I broke Inzoy very, very quickly. Like, all of the items just started disappearing. So we're going to start with the shell here. As you can already see, I'm already doing things that I don't think you're not really meant to do in the game. I'm using windows as a roof to start with because there's no glass roofs, and this original build had a glass roof, so I've used windows. And I'm using this freeform tool a lot. You can rotate everything. Obviously, you can see it here. It's very similar to Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster. If you know those games, it has this little like rotation widget. It's very much the same thing as that. What I would like in this game are a few more keybinds. I guess I'll go over kind of things that I want to see added as we go through this. But you're going to see that already I've found my favorite item in this game, which is this basic pillar, and it already doesn't look like a pillar. I've rotated it. It's this thing here slanting that I'm using as a wall. Basically, because you can rotate anything in any direction and scale it up and down and whatever, I was just like, whatever, let's see what we can use. What can we push to the limits? What can we do with these items that is just really not their intended purpose to create something? And this column works really well as it's just like a cube, essentially, that you can put in any shape whatsoever. So you're going to see me use that a billion times as we go through this. Get used to that. That's my new favorite item, like the plank was in The Sims. It's my new plank. Okay, but here you can see I've made this like exterior shell. We've used all these different wall heights, etc, etc. It was pretty easy to do this. The only thing that I found I had to do was sometimes save it and then come back into the game because it would slightly nudge things around. As I went through this, I realized I think what the game wants you to do if you're going to use this freeform tool is click this little tick that appears at the bottom, and if you don't do that and you just click out, it sort of soft locks it rather than hard locks it into position, and then if you load it back in, it will have maybe moved. I think that's what's going on here. After I started making sure I clicked the tick, I had far fewer issues as I was going through this build, so potentially that's a workaround for that, and I was just doing it wrong. But I'm now using this wooden plank. We still use a plank, of course, because, I always have to use a plank. and I'm going to edge these windows because, it's a roof, but it's actually windows. We're going to edge these in, just blend them in a little bit. I just wanted to see really how much you can stretch these items and create something that is pretty unique and custom. But already I was pretty impressed with what this game is letting me do right now. So this is obviously still early access, so I've tried to pick something that is square. I, first of all, was going to try and do something curved, because the curved walls in this, I'm not going to show you in this video because you can't really use them right now because you can't place windows or doors on them, but the actual method of placing them, the wall tool, is really nice. So as soon as they've added the ability to place walls, but curved walls that you can actually put windows and doors on, I'm going to do that. This one's kind of still a rectangular build, but I'm pushing it as much as I can. And the first thing here that was just immediately so much easier than The Sims, I'm going to say it was just easier. It was so much easier. The terrain tools, the wall, there's no conflict. The terrain will just go straight up to the wall. In my original build in The Sims, I made this bedroom that is meant to be like underground, a bit like a comfy little cave area, and I had to do so many little tricks to try and conceal that in the ground, whereas here the ground will literally just go straight up to the wall. You can even cover these little lines that show of the roof, and then I've just used grass and I've used the create a, well, it's not called that, is it? That was from the Sims 3, create a style thing to just pick a grass color essentially, and then there we go. We've like easy. It was so easy. However, you will see, and then try to play around a little bit more with the terrain to see what happens when you start using it where you've placed objects and they do nudge around a little bit. I would quite like if the game could add some kind of option to lock things in place when you're moving the terrain. But it's fine, I just nudged it all back again. The other thing here that I'm able to do in this build is create some ceiling sort of windows, because all of this will just overlap. So I just, again, got some smaller windows, put them on these larger windows. Everything is rescalable, resizable. You can really do whatever. And even in this, I was like, surely this won't work. This is not going to work, because I'm so used to the restrictions of The Sims. And then it just works. It's like, sure, just size it however you want, put it wherever you want, do whatever you want. I'm just not used to it. So I'm very excited to try and do some creative things in this game that, well, we'll see. We'll see if I can break it. So at this point in the build, I'm still very much in a place where I'm trying to get comfortable with the tools and how you place things and how you can resize things. What exactly the items are here. I've found some kind of section in the build mode, which has got some features here. You can see there's like pillars and gutters and things like that. But I really kind of stayed in a comfort zone here of just using this column over and over and over again to try and make various different things. And you'll see as we go through that I'm going to start using this for all sorts of different things, including here, where I've actually started to use it as a sliding door system, where the idea here is that they, you know, slide along the bottom and they fold up, and you can pull that across, and it can be a like changeable partition in this build. And originally I had to use custom content in The Sims to do that, but now I can just use this pillar, because the pillar is essentially, it's just whatever I want it to be, and of course it's recolorable as well. So the only thing there is a restriction is that you cannot use different materials. That's one thing I would quite like them to add, so I could maybe make it wood or something. Right now it's just that kind of plain plaster, and you can dye it, but you can't change the material. Hopefully they add that kind of thing later on. Here you're seeing me use what is actually a staircase. This is not a plank where I'm using on the edge of this roof here. It's a staircase, and I've just lowered it so it's only one step. And then, of course, because you can elevate it, you can put it wherever you want. So, again, you can even use staircases as like planks if you want to. And again, here now I'm going to use another staircase because I made a platform here, and it kind of doesn't make the wall properly at the base. I guess that's just early access things. They'll add that slight glitch or whatever. So I'm covering up that space using a stair, and you can just slot it underneath because you can elevate it and lower it. It's all it's kind of crazy, all the stuff you can do in this game. What else do I want to say? I have quite a lot of things to say about this game, and when I was recording this, because I was learning as I was going through, I'd literally not built anything until I recorded this. So lots of stuff's cut out. It's a little bit choppy. It's probably not the easiest video to watch that I've made, so sorry about that if it's a little bit all over the place. I also can't do all my camera tricks and things I used to do in The Sims because the camera controls are a lot more limited in this. There's no like video mode that The Sims had, so I hope they kind of add that kind of thing later on as we go through, so it makes content creation just a little bit easier. But yeah, I've got a few things with this game that I suppose I would like adding or changing. One thing I found a little bit difficult was I'm using this freeform tool that you'll see me using all the time, with you can rotate and scale up and down on the XYZ axis. That sometimes was getting in the way. The lines of it are a little bit thick. Maybe this is the kind of thing that someone could change with just a mod from the Steam Workshop. Like, that's the other thing too, is that there's mods for this already. There's so many of them all over the Steam Workshop. There's even custom content. So it's crazy how fast this will progress with people creating things that make it easier to use even in this early access stage. But I did find the freeform tool in its current state does sometimes get in the way a little bit of what I'm trying to see, where I'm trying to place the item. So if there could be some potential adjustments to that would be really nice. So while I'm placing some cupboards here, I will say as well that I would quite like an option where they just have no handles. You can change the handles, which again is just a great thing that you can do. I would like an option with no handles, and then again, that's another item that you can use to make, you know, maybe built-in walls and various things like that. So we're starting here with, I guess I'm starting the decoration part. We've finished the shell, I'm starting to decorate. Those blinds, you can just scale them up whatever size you want. You can see I'm tweaking with this hanging planter thing again. Even something like that, you can tweak it to whatever size you want. Getting pillars. I've already used so many pillars in this build. There's a pillar that's actually used as a pillar at the side, but other than that, I do have to do a bit of a nod to this body pillow, like that. Thank God that's in the game. You know, we really needed that. But I actually was going to try and use it to create cushions at the back of this sofa, but when I flipped it around, it like has the man or whatever it is still on it. So, you know, a larger cushion would be nice if someone could make that and add that to the game. But these ones that we're placing now, you can scale them up and down again. It's just so easy to just do this and place anything wherever you want. There was a point in this while I was building that it was there was a cut. You can see there was a slight cut. There was a slight glitch. It was struggling to click things, but just a simple reload of the game fixed that. Again, it's just like early access stuff. But here I've already, you can see, kind of figured out how I can use objects in ways that are not necessarily the typical use for that object. I think I'm using pillars here as these different wall sections, the shelf. I've got some kind of display stand that I've used at the front of the seat to sort of put that seat in a window seat, build it out, make this custom kind of seating area. So we're going to move on and do the bathroom. And my intention with this was to actually try and use as many of the different items as I possibly could, just to see what, I guess, the catalog is in this game. But even now I've already, you can see while I'm building this, I've already entered this comfort area where I'm like, you know what, I can do all of these things that I want to do by literally just using a few items and scaling them up and down and changing the textures of them. And I don't have to use all of these different things in the catalog, which is kind of even more crazy. That the original build in The Sims, I had all this custom content that I had to use so many different items in order to make it. Whereas in this early access game, where it's literally just the base game and there's not many items in there if you take into account how many there are in The Sims plus all the custom content. And already I'm kind of just using the same things over and over again, and it's getting me the effect that I want already. It's almost like the game could literally have been released with even fewer items and I still would have been able to do this, which is mad. And it really is all entirely down to just this rescaling, resizing tool, and the fact that there's this freeform thing where you can just rotate things any way that you want to. So here you can see I'm playing around with this style creation tool, and for some items like this there are different materials that you can pick. There's a wood section with all sorts of different woods, there's rock and stone, so that is in the game. I would just like it potentially expanding a little bit, like I said, to the column and other things that, you know, I think they've tried to keep it realistic so that you can't change items to be kind of a ridiculous texture, like you can't have a sofa that's made of rocks. But I just think in a game that's already this free form and lets you do so much, just like remove the constrictions and let people just do whatever they want. And what crazy things can we do? So now we're going to move on to this like kitchen dining area, and you can see here that I've again used a pillar to make this blue wall. It's a pillar. I've just made it long and it's a wall now. Again, just easy. Do whatever you want. The cabinets were a little bit tricky to work with. I will say I think we could do with a few more variations. For example, the island where the seats are does not quite slot together with the rest of the kitchen. There is some snapping, but you can also place stuff wherever you want, but the snapping felt slightly off. Like, I think there just needs to be a little bit tweaking going on there. But again, you can just hold Alt or whatever the key is and place anything wherever you want. The only thing is the textures don't quite line up here with the kitchen counter where it bends to become the central island. You can see that the textures don't continue round like they do in the corner, so I think they maybe need to add a couple more pieces just to finish off these like kitchen sets. But again, it's nothing bad. I'm literally just nitpicking here though. Placing these ones at the top, these top cupboards, again, really easy because you can just lower them and increase the height, lower the height, widen them. So I can just use the same item here and just slot it above the extractor fan, and it's just easy. I don't need to click another shape or whatever. I can make these as long, as tall, as deep, or whatever as I want. Again, just doing a little bit of a recolor here. The sink was a bit weird. I will say that the sink, when I tried to place it in the middle, had some kind of glitch going on, so it had to go on one side or the other. But again, nitpicky, I'm just being nitpicky. It's really not a big deal. You will see there that I just placed the wall, and even the wall, you can hold Alt and place that at any angle you want. So even though this build is very square, because the original was, you can literally just place these walls at any angle that you want, around 360 degrees. You can make it any length that you want. I'll probably try and do a build at some point using that and see how realistically you can place things within a build if you do make it a little bit crazy. But yeah, the things you can do with these tools, I think people are probably only just going to like have started scratching the surface of what you can actually do in this game, because it is so free in what it lets you do. There's never an error that comes up that's like, no, you cannot place this here. The only thing is there's the windows wanted to be placed on a wall, so a couple of the wall items do want to be on a wall, but again, there's probably even a workaround for that where you can maybe just place a hidden wall somewhere and then just pull all of the items off it and it won't conflict with the build. I don't know. I'm going to try all sorts of different things, I think, as we go through this exploration of Paralives. But here I'm making a shelf, and again, this is like a custom shelf I'm just making with a column. I've made a tiny column, I've made it really tall, and now I'm just lining it up with the ceiling and placing a shelf. Pulled it away from the wall because I can place it wherever I want. And in The Sims, this was a piece of custom content. It was a ceiling item that was a shelf that I would not have been able to do in the game without that custom content. But in Paralives base game, here we are. Just grab me a column and a shelf, and I can make this easy. It's just crazy the things you can do with this. And I've kind of reached this point in the build now where I'd got comfortable with understanding maybe what items I could use to make different things within this build. And it just felt really freeing to be able to just do all of this. Even this placing stuff, the clutter in the kitchen, there's no like allocated item placement nodes or anything on these counters or shelves like there are and we're used to in The Sims. You can just place things wherever you want. You can overlap them. It's not going to tell you can't do that. It's really down to you and like how realistic or unrealistic you want to build in this game, and you know, let your imagination just run wild. You could even flip all of these things upside down if you wanted to with the rotation. Like maybe there's some kind of idea there for a magical build where all of the items are floating inside of it. Like again, you could just do that easily in this game if you wanted to. The one downside I will say that for this while I was building this is I cannot share this build with you because I did it in this, it's not in the town, it's in the kind of freeform sandbox mode, which I realized now that you cannot upload. So everything else that I do from now on in Paralives, I will make sure it's in that home world so I can share it. Sadly, this is just more of a let's see what we can do in this game kind of initial video. So we're going to move on to the bedroom here, and as in this original build, a lot of the stuff was like built-in custom content, so again, that's what I'm trying to replicate here, but I can do it all with just using the in-game items with the cupboard units, the column, again, I'm using for too many things, too many things. I got a kind of like toxic relationship with this column as we went through this, just using it for everything. But the bedroom here, again, in my original build, the idea was that it's underground because I called it like a mental health build, and I liked the idea of sleeping in something that felt like a cozy cave. But I can't get over how, I mean, I can get over it. It should be in The Sims, but just the way that the terrain will just go up to the wall. It just goes up to the wall. Like, what is that? It lets me do it. It's crazy. I'm not used to it. It felt like that should have been so much more effort to try and get this effect, but the game just lets me do it. It's crazy. So here again, I'm using the columns to make a sort of slidey door looking thing, a partition for this. So I've got vertical columns that I've squashed flat to look like the door. I've got really thin columns that I've rotated 90 degrees to look like these ridges in the floor, and also some kind of rail that goes along the top. It's literally all just the exact same column. It's literally the same column. It's just tweaked to be all different shapes and sizes, and again I'm going to use it here to create a kind of rail on the wall here, different color, literally placing this. It's just, we're playing column simulator at this point. This is column simulator. Maybe I'll do a build where I literally only use this column and see how far we can stretch this one column. And again, I'm going to use it here because we're going to make the back of the bed with this column as well. You can use it as walls. Like, honestly, this column is the absolute star of the show. I need them to add more things like that. Imagine if they added just some basic art shapes like that column that you could put in, you could change the texture to be anything. That I would literally just use those for the whole build. That's all I would use. I don't need any of these other things. So now we're going to move on to the study, or we have already moved on to the study. Like I said, sorry, my commentary is going to be a little bit all over the place and not quite lining up that well in this particular video, just because I was learning and there's lots of cutting going on here. But this is really the peak of where I think I had figured out what this game's going to let me do. So this is the most kind of custom built-in fitted sort of furnishings area of the original build that I'd made in The Sims. So I saved this till now when I'd learned sort of some limitations or what items work best for actually making these custom things. So again, a lot of this is just kitchen cupboards. I flipped them around. Like I said, I would have preferred if they have options where there's no door, but you can just flip them around like I've done here, and now it just looks like this kind of built-in wooden shelf unit without doors on it. I've got columns here that I've used again as like a sliding door looking thing. I've got a column as a beam. I've got columns as the desk legs. Like, there's columns absolutely everywhere, just far too many. And I don't know how this would actually function in gameplay. That's one thing I didn't test. I don't know how navigatable this is, but there are also some limitations already in the game. Like, for example, the bar chairs are not functional yet. So I didn't really try and do this in any way to test functionality, because I know that the functionality is not completely implemented in all of the current objects in the game anyway. But maybe we will test that at some other point in time. Like, how crazy can we get with it actually still being functional if you know, actually want to play this game normally and not in this weird way that I do it, where I'm just trying to break it in build mode all the time. Again, here we have this TV, and in the original one, I had to do all sorts of different things to layer up on the TV to make it look like it was built into this corner, but in Paralives you just nudge it back and there you have a built-in TV. Like, it just felt weirdly easy. I felt like something was wrong and that I was missing something and that I needed to do more because it had taken so much more to do it in The Sims, but in Paralives it just let me do it. There was a bit of a weird feeling like I was missing something throughout all of this because it wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. So here I'm just placing everything in the living room and resizing all of these cupboards. This is the same cupboard. It's kind of side table that I've used, that I've made thin ones and long ones. Like, again, it's just the same item. You don't need all of these different variants. You just could just pick one item and make it so many different things. The clutter in this game, we're going to sort of finish off cluttering most of the areas now. There's so much clutter in this game that and again, it's like, it's not nonsense clutter. I felt like in The Sims there was a lot of clutter, but I would rarely use any of it, whereas the clutter that they've selected to put in this game is every item feels relevant and useful to actually have there, and it's not kind of full of bizarre style over stylized things. Like, it felt in The Sims sometimes scrolling through a menu, I would just be scrolling and scrolling until I found just a normal looking item. Of course there's some weird things in here like children's toys, and you can see there's like a frog or a few weird things, but typically the things that are in there, like there's already light switches and there's vents and just normal things that I want to be able to put in a house. Pegs here, we're going to move on to this sort of like cloakroom entryway. The pegs are actually crazy. You can, if you place the peg, you can then drag it and place it somewhere else and it will create like a clothesline in any shape that you want. I didn't do this in this, but I was kind of gagged when I saw that you can do that. And now we're just going to finish off this little area here that originally was a plant room. What I will say is I had a lot more plants in the original Sims build because I got all these custom content things. If they're if someone wants to add like 1 billion plants to the Steam Workshop, I will download all of them because I absolutely adore my plants. But I was trying not to go too over the top with this. I could have probably installed a few things to begin with, but I wanted to learn what was actually in the base game before I start messing around with what people are doing on the Steam Workshop. The rugs are really nice. Again, you can resize them, do whatever you want with them. Just going to finish off here with a few little pieces, and I really like the entry one, that welcome mat, because it doesn't say welcome, it says leave. I thought that was a funny little addition. So I do a few more bits inside, but we're now going to move on to the outside because this was getting a little bit long, and I wanted to show, well, try out what we can actually do with the landscaping here. I did a lot of builds that used a lot of landscaping in The Sims, and in this one I was really excited to try how we're going to do that in Paralives, when you can scale things up and down and just move them into the ground and out of the ground. And already these bushes, I'm just using the same bush, I'm nudging it up and down a bit, and it creates this such a nice organic like foliage effect that you can layer all these things up. Even these shrubs are actually recolorable. There's some base different shades of green, different swatches, but again, you can even go into the advanced colors and change them to, you could make some, you could probably even make it look like another planet or something where all the foliage is red, or I don't know, like, it's again just this freedom to potentially do any idea that you have is, I think, what's going to really excel in this game. The terrain tools here, where with the paint, the terrain paint, again, is nice. There's lots of different options. What I would like adding is there's no kind of softness or opacity option, which would be really nice just to be able to make kind of gradients. And right now the terrain paint has pretty harsh lines, you can see. I normally like to blend stuff in a little bit more than that, but hopefully, again, that's another thing that I will add later on. It's not finished. This game is really not finished, and it tells you it's not finished as well. In a lot of stuff, it tells you like this is not in the game yet, and it's coming. When you try and place curved walls, it tells you you're not going to be able to do windows and doors on the curved wall yet. We're going to add that later. When you try and place the bar stools, it says, hey, the powers cannot interact with these yet, it's coming later. So it's really transparent when it's telling you what is not in the game yet. But the stuff that is here is, I'm baffled that I was able to make this already with such a limited toolkit and limited objects, and it really is mostly just down to this ability to, where Paralives has given us that freedom that we've kind of wanted, I think, from a life sim and a building game for a really long time, where it just lets you do what you want. It's not going to say, no, you can't do that. You can't place this here. You can't do that. You can't overlap this. Like, maybe when it comes down the line, we'll have some issues with gameplay, but it's like, it respects that you're a person with a brain who can then potentially look at what the errors are and fix them yourself later down the line, rather than assuming that you're stupid and that it needs to put these restrictions in place for you. Otherwise, you're just gonna like have a tantrum and stop playing. It just feels respectful to the player in a way that I don't feel like I've felt from games for a long time. But I've been waffling on for a really long time now. I had so many thoughts about this, and I'm really excited to try other builds and share other builds and see what we can do with this game, especially as new features get added. Here's the finished thing I'm going to do. Again, I'm sorry, it's not this really nice like camera angle thing that I used to do where it looks all cinematic from The Sims, because that's not been added yet. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a look through and compare it maybe to the original. I'll post some images of the original as well. But as far as this game goes, I am really impressed with how it coped. For one, it didn't break from me doing all of this. Some slight glitches, but not as many as I thought there would be. And just the ability to create whatever I want with a base game, even to the extent where I've literally pushed it as far as I could in this by making something that took lots of expansion packs, lots of custom content, lots of cheats in the original Sims, and I've just come straight into Paralives base game here, and it's just pretty much let me make exactly that thing. Maybe slightly less detailed and with a few early access sort of glitching things that, you know, just slightly less polish. But again, that's so easy that they will add, and it's early access, so it's really not an issue. I'm just kind of amazed with what I was able to do as someone coming fresh into this game, my first build, and it just let me do it and figure it out as I was going along and do my own problem solving. I would actually recommend everyone try this, especially if you like building. I will leave you with just a few more shots of this, and I will say thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.